I'm very grateful to the SMMT and to Coventry University for the opportunity of opening Concept 2096. In 100 years' time, everything else you see before you will be on the London to Brighton with the then Lord Montague of Bewley. What is behind me will be on the London to Brighton in 200 years' time.
So this is it, you've seen it here first. Concept 2096, the ultimate car of the future. Now it's got no wheels, it relies on a revolutionary slug drive, which hasn't been invented yet, but we won't talk about that. It's got no steering wheel, so you won't even have to drive the thing. Now don't get me wrong, but I thought that wheels and driving and steering is really what a car's all about. And you know, the other thing is, I don't know if I fancy parking a slug on the drive. This must be one of the most unusual unveilings I'm going to see today, on a day packed full of unveilings. What's it all about?
Well, actually, we came up with this idea to demonstrate the Shogun's versatility. So this is the smallest aerobatic aircraft in the world. It flies 160 miles an hour. It's got two 15-horsepower engines. And we're going to take it to about 35 air shows around the country in '97. The Shogun will accelerate down the runway, and at 60 miles an hour, the aircraft takes off from the roof of the Shogun.
So when are we going to see it in action?
Well, we're going to have a photo call and everything organised after the motor show is out the way, and we can get the plane back. So mid-November, we'll be having a day to actually demonstrate it.
What kind of market are you going for with this? Is it for these busy people that get stuck in traffic jams on the M25?
Well, we think there's a great market for hot pursuit vehicles. You know, the police maybe they get, you know, they're in hot pursuit. The car gets stuck in the traffic jam. They take off and chase and everything. No, it's just a fun promotion, really.
So, Colin, are we going to see you in it?
Well, I have got a pilot's licence, but I haven't had a go in this yet. But you might see me in it. I don't know.
Well, I hope we'll be there. Thanks very much. The Voyager, the world's first and best-selling MPV. Why so late to the UK?
Well, the reason was an engineering reason. Originally, the Voyager had just one sliding side door, and because it was principally a left-hand drive vehicle, it was on the wrong side. So if we brought it into the UK in left-hand drive, people would be climbing out on the wrong side into the traffic, and we didn't want that. So we waited until they made a major revamp of the car, which was a couple of years ago, when they put twin side doors in the vehicle, and we just had to wait a little bit longer for right-hand drive to come along, and now it's here today.
So what's new about it? What's different about the one we've just seen unveiled today?
Well, it's moved on quite a lot from the original 1984 Voyager, which we have on the stand, which, as you say, is the world's first MPV, despite what anyone else says.
They just don't look like the same vehicle.
No, they don't, that's right. Although it's the same principle, which is carrying a total of 7 people in comfort with luggage room behind the rear row seats, which many of the MPVs which are around today, the pretenders I like to call them, don't have. The Voyager has luggage space behind its rear seats now. There's a long wheelbase version with an extra 13 inches of room behind the seats, and it really is a vehicle in which you can put all 7 people in, put all the luggage in, and you don't have to strap things to the roof as you do with others. So that's a change. There are new engines, a 3.3 litre V6 engine. There's a 2 litre 4-cylinder engine, which is brand new for the Voyager, and ultimately we hope to have a turbo diesel version as well. The look of the car as well, this is something which people have commented on. They say that it is a very good looking vehicle. It looks very much like like a car, handles like a car. It's not a converted van in the way that some people view MPVs. This is just happens to be a car that carries 7 people and their luggage in comfort.
We see that Chrysler in America have announced a 92% increase in profits. Are we going to see some expansion of Chrysler into the UK and into Europe as a result of this?
Yes, you will. Just recently we had in Brussels, Chrysler opened a new European office, which it had a presence in Germany previously, but this is an office which employs, ultimately, will be about 200 people. And the presence in Europe is growing all the time. Chrysler has just recently taken over the distributor in France and in Italy. So yes, Chrysler does appear to have big plans for Europe and other international markets. In the UK, we as a distributor, we naturally have big plans. We now have Chrysler badged vehicles, which is the Neon and of course the Voyager in the range, and we have lots of others coming along as well. So yes, in terms of expansion, we've expanded massively over the last 4 years. I don't see that coming to an end just at the moment.
Just a quick chat about the Wrangler. We've seen the new one again, another new unveiling this morning. I can't keep up with it all.
Lots of you.
The main difference is of course the headlights. You've gone back to that old style of the rounded headlights, which I must say makes me happy.
Yes.
What other changes can we see?
Well, it still looks like, we say, an old friend. It is very much like the old Wrangler that you mentioned, which we actually ran out of this year. Yes, the round headlights are probably the most obvious exterior change, but if you look inside, you'll see that what used to be a fairly primitive and, I suppose, practical interior is also now quite stylish. It looks very much more like a car inside. It now has twin airbags as well, which is a useful safety feature, and also under the skin it has coil spring suspension, which is something that it didn't used to have, and some people accused it of being a little bit of a bone shaker, but the coil spring suspension has sorted all that out, and it is now an even better performer off-road because the coil spring suspension allows greater travel of the wheels when going over rough terrain. So it looks pretty similar, but it is changed. And you mentioned the round headlights, of course. We had a situation in the States recently where Jeep enthusiasts who liked the old Wrangler, this is the sort of the really old ones of 10, 15 years ago, when they used to have round headlights, they used to wear t-shirts saying real Jeeps don't have square headlights. So I think we've got a few owners out there who are quite happy to see this change.
So you're doing a bit of a t-shirt run, are you, to give away with the new vehicles?
Well, we couldn't do it because we as a company, I couldn't really agree to that because the Cherokee and the Grand Cherokee also have square headlights, so better not do that.
You're sitting on the fence on this
Absolutely,
one.
yes.
Looking behind us here, we've got the Prowler.
Yep.
It is an amazing vehicle, and it's so wonderful to see it here as well, to see it actually in production. Did you ever think it was going to happen?
Well, when we saw the car, we looked at it and thought never. But one of the words that we've learned to say with Chrysler, or not to say with Chrysler, is never. They have a habit of producing some fairly wild and adventurous concept cars which always seem to make it into production. The Viper was a classic case. Even the Neon was a concept car. The Grand Cherokee was a concept car originally, and all were quite wild and wonderful in their own small way. When we saw Prowler, we thought, I wonder if, and there was so much demand for this car that the company went ahead with it, and it now goes on sale in the USA in January.
Next question, when is it going to be on sale here in the UK?
That's a good question.
Never say never.
No, never say never, yes, that's right. Well, we as a company we're crying out for the vehicle. We would love to see it. We understand that there are some engineering practicalities which get in the way. If you have a look at some of the details on the car, you'll see that things like the bumpers and the lights may struggle to get through some of the European homologation and other regulations. And what Chrysler have said is that they don't want to compromise the design of the car just to get it through regulations to put it on sale in the market. So we may see some work from Chrysler to try and adapt it for other markets, but at the moment I would say that if I were to make a prediction, not just yet, Chrysler will be satisfying what is huge demand in the USA. They have thousands and thousands of orders for this car, and they're quite happy to satisfy that demand first of all, as they did with Viper, and then maybe look at markets like the UK. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed.
Skoda have had a reputation for being a bit of a joke somewhat in the motor industry over the past few years, but it's been changing slowly. What have they been doing to combat this?
Well, the first thing that happened was Volkswagen took them over, which was a big step, and then came the Felicia, which is a thoroughly modern small hatch, and now we've got the Octavia, which is going to come into the country in 1998.
Well, have you had a drive of it yet?
I have indeed, yes.
And what do you think?
Well, it's an excellent car. I mean, it shares lots of Volkswagen and Audi components. While it's not quite as refined as an Audi or a Volkswagen, it's certainly better than Skoda's immediate competitors.
But looking at the new Passat earlier on today, and I must say that the body shape is very similar.
Well, again, it's no surprise. I mean, even though it was designed by Skoda's own design team, there are obviously family resemblances with the rest of the Volkswagen group.
So what market are they really trying to go for with this? Are they after the fleet buyers, do you think?
Well, no, I don't think so. I think if private buyers on a budget, more like, I think the natural rivals for this car are more along the lines of Hyundai and Daewoo. It's very well made. It's got, like I said, it's got Volkswagen and Audi engines, so they're obviously some of the best engines you can get, particularly their diesel engines. And it's got a much smoother ride than its rivals. It looks more modern than, say, a Daewoo does, which is essentially a reworked Cavalier. The only problem is it's a bit lacking on rear legroom.
It still seems to me, though, that Skoda do have a bit of an uphill struggle with their image and their credibility. Can they overcome this?
Well, I think they can. The smaller Felicia has already proved they can make a thoroughly modern small hatch, and Skoda do enjoy the best brand loyalty behind Mercedes. People keep coming back to Skodas. It's as simple as that. And if you've got that sort of brand loyalty, then you can certainly expand from there.
Now here we are on the TVR stand. Now TVR are one of the only companies that are actually doing anything new at this year's motor show. They've got 3 model launches. One of them is this baby, the V12, or the Beastie as the boys from Blackpool have decided to call it.
We're going to go racing. We've been doing some GT racing for a few years now, but although the car's recognised as handling really sweetly, we have always been shorter horses, so never a company to do things in halves. We are building another new engine, which is a 7-litre V12, 660 brake horsepower, which should be enough to sort the others out. And then, of course, because there's a GT car, we are going to build versions for the road as well.
How many are you planning to sell on the road?
I imagine it's going to be over £100,000. It very much will be a racing car still, even if you can drive it on the road. But we've already been a little bit surprised in that we thought maybe we'd get 1 or 2 orders over the duration of the show. By 10 o'clock this morning, we had 3 deposits.
From looking at it, it really doesn't surprise me. You really are truly the biggest British car manufacturer, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of number of cars we build, yes, we are.
And what are those numbers at the moment?
We're just going up to 1,700 cars a year. That'll be 2,200 within 12 months' time.
That's pretty good. Who owns TVR?
One man, Peter Wheeler, lives in Blackpool, runs the company, races the cars, and owns it lock, stock and barrel.
Well, the man who's got an opinion on absolutely everything, Mike Rutherford, what does he think of TVR's new baby?
When you talk about the new baby, are you talking about the PR man? I think it's marvellous.
They do look very young.
He must be about 12. Lovely bloke, though. The new car, I mean, we've got to put this car into context. This really is the only genuinely new car at the British Motor Show. This is the only car that has really surprised people like you and I. We came here looking for a brand new car. This is it. V12, about 6-7 litre. You know, the ultimate muscle car, and it's a British car. It might cost 150 grand, but thank God there's a little company up in Blackpool, a sort of cottage industry company, that are bringing out something like this, and more power.
There's an awful lot of good things come out of the north of England, I must say that.
Absolutely, and I tell you what, I just wonder how much help a company like this gets from the British government, for example. The Department of Trade and Industry goes around the world trying to attract the Koreans and the Japanese to Britain. They actually hand out tens of millions of pounds to those companies. I'm not sure that TVR in Blackpool get too much state aid, and they should, because if we're not very, very careful, a company like this will find it difficult to survive, and you know, it'll be the same old story. A foreign competitor will come in, a predator almost, and snap it up, and it will become foreign owned. And we don't want this. We want this company to stay British. And I've got to say, they're doing a great job. This is Britain's largest truly British car manufacturer. Once this one goes, there's nothing left. And before everybody says, well, what about Aston Martin, what about Lotus, and what about Jaguar? They're all owned by foreign companies. This is a British-owned company, and it's owned by, you know, the archetypal English eccentric, and that's what we need.
So what do you reckon, Mike? Should we put our names down for a test drive then, or what?
Well, I think it's going to have to be a test drive because, you know, it's an expensive car, a very expensive car, 150 grand. Between us, we're never going to have 150 grand to spend on a car. So I would say, though, quite seriously, if anybody's doing the numbers this weekend and they're doing the lottery, the numbers to remember are 12 and 7, Project 12-7, because if you win the lottery, this is the car to spend your money on.
One of the major newcomers to the luxury car fold is the Jaguar XK8. Driving it, Mike Rutherford.
Well, a car like this should be driven in somewhere like California or somewhere, certainly on the west coast of America. And we're driving it in Salford, near Manchester. But nonetheless, it's the only car to be in. I mean, it is very refined. We're in the sporty version, which has still got the wooden leather, but less traditional, as its name suggests, more funky, more upbeat, more modern. So if you're the 35-year-old businessman who's made 50, 60 grand, this is the car for you. And I've got to say, it drives as good as it looks. I mean, you'd expect that anyway, with all the work that's gone into it, but it really does handle. I've driven this car in the south of France, and now I'm driving it in sunny Salford. And it's got to be one of the best cars in its class. Jaguar say that it's up to Mercedes standard, it's the same as Porsche standard. I don't know about that. I mean, time will tell. The way I look at it is, a car like this might be fine from day one when it comes off the production line, just being prepared by the dealer. Don't forget, you get a nice 3-year, 60,000 mile warranty in this car. But in 10, 20 years time, are we going to be seeing this car standing up to the rigours of daily life, as well as something like a Porsche 911, as well as a Mercedes, for example? Who knows? But meanwhile, sounds corny, but it's British, it's brash, it's back, and it's great. Nick Shaler, this is the car we've all been waiting for, possibly the British car of the year. Tell us a little bit about it, the Jaguar XK8.
Well, I think it just is a new breed of Jaguar that's come into the market. It's a car that I think most people who've driven it say it gives them just total satisfaction. They never want to get out of the car. And that's, of course, why we wanted to do the car so badly.
It's a British car, but it's an American-owned company. Ford these days own Jaguar. How British is it? How much have you had to rely on Ford for input with this vehicle?
Well, the input has all come from our engineers at Whitley. They've designed this car from the ground up. Now, obviously, what Ford gave us was, frankly, the money, and that's what we needed. It's a very British car.
Before anybody worries about the Ford connection, it's fair to say probably this car wouldn't have happened were it not for Ford stepping in and taking over Jaguar.
There's absolutely no question. Had Ford not done that, Jaguar would have been dead now.
It's a British car, it's a driver's car. It is effectively the replacement for the E-Type, isn't it? Why not call it the F-Type?
Well, we thought about the F-Type, and then unfortunately another company down the road from us in Birmingham came up with an MGF, so we decided that wasn't a good idea.
Simon, your job as sales manager is to convince people to go for this car as opposed to the deluge of other cars there are on the market. Why would anybody choose an XK8 in 1996?
The beauty of this car is it's the first new Jaguar sports car for 21 years. It's got the classic looks of the car like the E-Type, but with modern design and technology, it brings back tradition, but in a modern day sports car.
Has it really got the looks? I mean, I know it looks great and I'd love to own one, and it's out of my price bracket, so I'm not criticising it. But when we see it along the old E-Type, and as I said earlier, this is really the successor to the E-Type. This is sort of the F-Type, although it's not called the F-Type, it's called the XK8. You know, I can't help thinking that it's not as sporty as perhaps it might be. It's a bit saloon car-ish.
It's not a sports car in the sense that it's a small open-top kit car derived car. It's a Jaguar. It's a quality British-made car built on tradition, so it has the chunky looks of a big car. Jaguars have always made big cars, so traditionally it's a new modern-day looking car.
And your reaction from customers so far? It's early days yet, but what has been the initial reaction from regular Jaguar customers?
Regular Jaguar customers ordered their cars between 12 to 18 months ago before they even saw the car. Being traditionalists and always being Jaguar owners, they basically just put their order in then, and it's just created more and more desirability after the launch still, because people who want to order now will be looking to next year. You don't sell the XK8, you take the orders.
Now, forget about what the salesmen say. Michael Sutcliffe, you're a proud Jaguar XK8 owner, and you've been a Jaguar owner for the last 30 years or so. How does this car stack up with what you've had in the past?
I would say this is probably the best Jag that's ever been produced, both from the point of view of performance and style.
What have you owned before this one?
My first one was an E-Type, a coupe. I thought that was the end of the world. Of course, I was 30 years younger then. But by comparison, that was a real bone shaker. Fine on a straight line, but the braking in it was a little bit hairy. The braking in this is unbelievably positive. You feel secure. You feel you can do the speed, and you know you're going to stop.
Now, with due respect, you're enjoying the best years of your life, but imagine that you were back in your 20s or 30s. Would this really satisfy your sporting cravings? Does it really look the part?
Yes. Oh, yes. This would, in fact, if I could go back to have fun, this is the kind of car that would help me to get the fun.
And we must stress that that last speaker wasn't an employee of Jaguar, a genuine Jaguar customer, just happened to bring his car in, and I can't help thinking that he'll be back soon to order another one. A wonderful car, but I think they've got the styling ever so slightly wrong. The whole point of Jaguars is that they look like cats, like Jaguars. You can almost see them prowling along the road. The problem with this is it looks to me like I don't know, just an ordinary saloon that's with a sporty touch. All right, that's a bit of an understatement, but you know what I mean. What I'd like to see is this car with a much lower stance on the road, much smaller wheels. This looks far too large to me, this wheel. And I think what we also need to see is the thing sitting much lower on the road. It almost needs a boot full of bricks or ballast or sand or something to lower the car down on the ground. Only then, I think, will it be the true sports car. Meanwhile, I think it's a very nice car, but for somebody in their 40s and 50s rather than somebody in their 20s or 30s.
The Renault Espace has been updated for 1997. Ginny Buckley talked to Renault's design director.
So here we are at the new Espace, Patrick. Tell me about it. What have you changed this time around?
Well, this is, in terms of interior packaging, quite a revolution, because contrary to what we do in normal cars, in let's say 99.9% of cars around the show, they have one heater, which is located right in the center of the vehicle. Heaters nowadays are absolutely huge. They're as big as an engine, a petrol engine of a car of the 1960s. It's extremely deep, it fills the whole of the instrument panel, which means that today we have very little available space for stowage. So we took the design challenge of developing a vehicle with two heaters, two smaller heaters, one located on the left-hand side, one on the right-hand side. And as a result, we've developed this absolutely huge storage space where you can actually put an attaché case if you want to.
Which on an MPV is really what it's all about. You want movement and you want space to store things.
Indeed. So storage has always been a big issue for the designers, because clearly the biggest challenge of the designers today is to push the component manufacturers to reduce the size of their components. Namely, the miniaturization that happened in the electronic industry. The first pocket calculator were as big as a phone in the 1970s, and now they're so small that sometimes they're even too small, the ones on the watches. So the big issue is that in the automobile business, the components have not been miniaturized, and we have so many new things like airbags and so on, which means that glove boxes have become glove boxes. You can only put a pair of gloves. So we are fighting for space within all our new vehicles.
Why did you feel the need to update the Espace? Is it because you're the market leader and you're conscious of the others snapping at the heels?
Well, yes, we launched the Espace. We were the first to launch an MPV in Europe 15 years ago. The first month we sold 4. So when you're a pioneer, you also take a lot of risks. Yeah. And it took about slightly more than 10 years for the competition to follow up. And they've done that, I think, rather well. But basically, they designed not with a rear view mirror, but certainly with an eye looking at what the Espace was doing. We have the advantage of having a tremendous customer base because we have loyalty from 15 years of customers. And it is through their help, and a lot of children also, because we work with children. We get them into the design studios and listen to them. Tell us, what do you think about this kind of fabric?
Let them pile into it and mess it up, do you?
That's how we design things like storage space, which looks like Alibaba's cavern, in the floor of the Scenic. And here we designed these special type of seats where they feel they have their own environment. The great thing I remember of my childhood was spending journeys at the back of seats, fighting with my sister. So I would have my muscles in my left thigh absolutely stiff by the time I would arrive at the end, because I fought during the whole journey for my territory. And this is how we design cars for children. We think about them.
You've remembered all these things from your childhood and you put them into this car. So where next? Where does the Espace go from here?
Well, clearly the next phase is going to be for more modularity, greater ease of movement within the car, knowing that we've spent a lot of our energy trying to make the seats a little less heavy. In fact, we've made them considerably less heavy. Nevertheless, they remain still a rather awkward operation.
Yeah.
So our aim is to design even lighter seats for the future, and I'm not going to tell the competition all the new things that we will bring, but we'll certainly try to maximize or optimize, let's say, the inside of the space of our vehicle. We continually tell our engineers, gentlemen, the purpose of developing a vehicle is for it to carry as much space and to carry people, not to carry mechanical bits. So please keep the dirty bits as small as possible.
Shoot them as fast as they come, but a million new voices will be found. Their heads are held high, the braver ones. It's more than a wall that must come down.
There are more cars here at the motor show than you could poke a stick at. And I'll tell you, this is one that really does grab me, the Fiat Barchetta. It's an absolute design delight. It's sleek, it's sporty. Fiat wanted to create a car that was fun to drive. Haven't driven one yet, but it certainly looks like it's going to fill those expectations.
If you look very closely at Barchetta, you can see quite a bit of Fiat heritage in the design, although it's very much a modern design and totally modern throughout. The styling has some nice retro elements, and it looks back as well as looks forward. So I think it has a reminder of Fiat's past as well as the future.
What about those rumours I've been hearing plans to introduce a right-hand drive version? Because not everybody's comfortable, are they?
Well,
right-hand drive?
this is true, but we are in a position to offer right-hand drive Alfa Romeo GTVs and Spiders, which of course are convertible, and we also offer right-hand drive Fiat Coupes as well. So we have plenty of sports cars in right-hand drive.
Just not the one I love.
But think how exclusive you're going to be.
This is design concept at its very best. You know, you can always trust the Europeans to make a car that you really want to get into and drive, can't you? It's sleek, sporty, and I'll tell you what, I'll see you in a few hours.
BMW reckon that the only place in the world where you can find a 2.8 litre version of their incredible new Z3 at present is down here in Madeira. It's a 2.8 litre, almost 200 brake horsepower, top speed of around about 135 miles an hour. I expected it to be a bit quicker than that, but it's a car that's built not in Munich where you would expect a BMW to be built, but it's a car built in the southern Bible Belt by good old boys, basically. Farmers, rednecks, good old southern Bible bashers. I've got a factory down in Spartanburg in the Carolinas, and they're putting this car together down there. You might ask the question, why? Why would BMW want to build a car in the deep south of America rather than in its native Germany? Well, the answer is simple, really. It's a lot cheaper to do it that way. Get a greenfield site, get a bunch of old redundant farmers, get them on the production line, train them up to German standards, and you've got a very cost-effective production base. And that's why this car is being built down there. From the first impressions I get, this is built as well, if not better, than a German car. It's very, very well put together. And the styling, I mean, just ask yourself, I think it speaks for itself. Of course, styling is a subjective thing. You can't go around saying this is a good-looking car, this is an ugly car, because it just ain't like that. But I've got to say, I don't see how you can fault it. Everything is in the right place, and it's timeless. This is a sort of car you could go out in 10, 20, 30 years' time, and it will still turn as many heads, if not more, than it will today. In the same mould as the BMW Z1. Now, despite the fact that it's early in the morning and we haven't even seen daybreak yet, we've got somebody from BMW here just to make sure we don't nick any bits off this comparatively rare car, the 2.8 litre version of the Z3. Chris Willows from BMW GB, all very well producing a highly desirable car like this with very attractive pricing. But what about supply of that car? There have been a few problems, haven't there, with supplies to the UK?
Yes, they have. Unfortunately, right-hand drive cars are a fair bit behind left-hand drive, and in a sense, we're a victim of our own success. Yeah. The car is a runaway success in all markets. A lot of people want the car, and I'm afraid we've had to wait a bit longer. Having said that, our customers have been very patient, and we're looking after them by rewarding their faith by holding the car at under £20,000 and ensuring that the car will be delivered at that price, even though that will take up the best part of next year's production.
And then when are we going to see then the 2.8 litre version coming?
Well, the first customer delivery should be August next year.
Does that mean that if somebody places an order now, they'll get their car in August, or is there a waiting list where they have to wait a bit longer?
There is a waiting list. It's not a huge one at this stage because the car isn't, frankly, very well known yet. We expect that people will start putting their orders in fairly quickly for this car, so it's impossible to predict, but I would suggest that if someone actually desperately wants one, they rush down to their BMW dealer now, and we should be able to sort something out for them quite quickly.
It sounds to me as if a grey market is going to develop here, and that's something that you, as the importer, don't particularly like. Talk us through how the grey market works, and perhaps warn people about the implications of paying over the top for a new car in order to jump the queue effectively.
Well, it's very simple, Mike. We would strongly recommend that people do not pay over that retail price just for the sake of being first. It's a short-term gain to be the first on the street with a car. You inevitably will lose money by doing so, and although there's nothing we can actually do to stop it, we take a pretty dim view of it.
The advice is don't pay that price premium. If you want this car, pay not a penny more than the asking price from BMW. Don't get involved in this nonsense of queue jumping, responding to ads in newspapers. It won't be BMW dealers that will be trying to con extra money out of you. It'll be people who are selling their cars on for a quick profit. And believe me, you can make a big financial mistake, because although there might be a price premium for a few weeks during introduction, very soon that car will start depreciating, and you lose money on every car. You lose even more if you're paying over the top for the car in the first place. Well, the Germans have finally got out of bed and joined the Brits, an hour late, no, to be quite honest, we've been waiting for daybreak, and it'll come eventually. I'm joined by Thomas Gubitz, one of the engineers from BMW in Munich. Thomas, simple question, why would anybody buy this car as opposed to something from Porsche or the Empire Mercedes?
I think this is very easy. If you look at the car, you can see it's a very emotional car, and at second, a car like this. It's a real Roadster, and I think if you compare it with other cars, this is the real Roadster you can buy.
We finally got our hands on this car. The Germans have wheeled it out of the garage for us, the 2.8 litre BMW Z3. And initial impressions are wonderful. Despite the fact that it's made in the US, it feels very, very Germanic. We can't really, around town, get a feel of how good this engine is, but it sounds beautiful, lovely and throaty, and you can just feel the raw power out under there just waiting to be unleashed, but not around here, and not today, I fear. This is a car that's quick enough for anyone, believe me. Well, see, that's the trouble with a car like this. I mean, you've got all this performance, potential performance under the bonnet, and there's very little you can do with it, because every 2 minutes, no matter whether you're in Madeira, where we are now, or you're on the South Circular in London, you can't really put your foot down. Although I did then, I suppose. Well, it goes. I mean, it goes like you'd expect a 2.8 litre BMW to go. Quite frankly, you do climb in some cars and sit and look at the dashboard and the instrumentation and the switchgear, and you wonder who designed it. BMW dashboard layout and interior design is, for me, just absolutely perfect. I feel very happy with this sort of setup. Nice, simple, clear dials, no nonsense, dead classy, sort of almost minimalist, and everything, you know where everything is, it's all logical. The only thing I would like to see in BMWs, like I'd like to see in all cars, is a radio with dials rather than buttons. I don't know why you need all this stuff. I mean, really, is there any better way to drive along a coast road with the sun shining early in the morning? There ain't too many cars I'd rather be in than this at the moment.
No, this is not a Nissan Almera about to be pushed over a cliff. The new Toyota Camry has just gone on sale in the UK, but you would be forgiven if you couldn't remember what the old model looked like. After all, Camry sales in the UK haven't exactly been a success story. Toyota, however, feel that they now have a car which is closer to British motor-buying public taste. The main market for the huge Camry has always been America. In fact, has been in the top 5 sellers for years, where large and reliable obviously come higher on the wish list than maybe the British motorists need for good handling and manoeuvrability. That's why in January you'll have the option to buy the new Camry Sport, developed by Toyota GB for the UK market only, with lowered suspension and a maybe more youthful look. There are 2 engine choices, an all-new 3-litre V6 24-valve engine and a revised 2.2-litre engine. The automatic gearbox on the V6 is electronically controlled to smooth out gear changes, even altering the shift pattern to suit the driving style as measured by the throttle movements. Inside, the usual thoughtful touches executive cars have are in abundance. We'll be driving the new Camry soon, but for now we can tell you the Camry 2.2 starts at £19,600. The 3-litre V6 version will have an on-the-road price of £24,600.
One of the stars of the Ford stand at the NEC this year is without doubt the new Mondeo. Now we've managed to drag it away from those awful arenas out onto the road to take a look at something rather special. From next year, Ford Mondeos will be available with in-car navigation. Chris, what's it all about? Is this the new accessory of the 90s and into the next century?
I think definitely it's going to be something that really revolutionises the way we use and think about our cars. With this system here, it knows where you are to start with. You tell it where you want to go using a computer keypad, and literally the friendly voice of the navigation system will tell you what to do at each and every junction as you come to it. And then there's a helpful diagram icon on the car radio as well to confirm where you need to go.
How does it work? How does it know where we are?
Right, it knows where we are using a network of satellites. There are 26 satellites, navigational satellites, circling the Earth, and it gets a fix from at least 4 of those satellites. So that tells it exactly where we are at the moment. It then has a CD with digital maps. It'll have digital maps of virtually the whole of the UK by the time it's launched. So that's how it uses to plan where we're going. And then it's got a compass in the back, and it's got monitors on each of the wheels, measure the distance that you've gone, to track your progress so far, and it can always refer back to the satellites just to double check its position.
So what kind of people are going to use this? You know, you're going to the shops on a Saturday morning, it's not really for you, is it? Where's your market?
No, the people who are going to find it most useful, I'm sure, are people who travel a lot on business, go to lots of different addresses. It's a cracking system if you're, for example, driving around a strange town. It can tell you, it's accurate enough to tell you as you come up to the road that you want to take, turn left here. So it's ideal if you're perhaps a rep visiting a business or making deliveries or something like that.
What kind of benefits to the driver? Less stress?
It obviously makes life rather easier for the driver. You're probably going to get there quicker because you don't get lost on the way. You may even save petrol because you're not driving round and round in circles.
Well, you'd need to save petrol to save money, because these things have been, around about £3,000, which is quite a lot just to make you get there 10 minutes quicker. What are you doing about price?
Well, the price is going to be considerably less than £3,000 because it'll be a factory-fitted option. It's probably going to be, price hasn't been announced yet, but we're looking at something like half that figure. And like every other piece of electrical equipment, I think you'll find that as the years roll on very quickly, the price comes into the reach of the ordinary family motorist.
So you really see that in 10-15 years time this will be a standard piece available?
Definitely, and it can be used in so many different ways. It could perhaps eventually involve information on traffic conditions and things like that, so it can actually help you plan your journey to avoid delays as well.
Have you been working with the RAC at all on this?
The RAC is one of the organisations who've actually been testing a slightly different version of this system. In the London area we've got 50 Ford Transits equipped with navigation systems which are being used by people like the RAC who are out on the road all the time. That's providing very valuable feedback to show us really how we can develop the system before it's formally launched.
Show me how it works, and please take me to the station.
Okay.
It's time to go home.
No problem. Right, we just need to start the computer off again, and using the keys here, enter destination. We've already entered. You can obviously choose a new destination by town and then by street, but we've actually input a number of destinations already in the memory. And we did think that you might fancy going home, so we've got the railway station as a second entry on there. So, start the route guidance.
Continue to follow the road.
Wow, it's very specific.
It's very specific indeed, and we found that people liked that woman's voice. Probably for other markets, a different voice is more appropriate.
What about a kind of user-friendly voice that you can alter depending on the mood that you're in?
That's not programmed into this system. We'll work on it for you.
Okay, that's fine.
Straight on after 150 yards.
One of its other advantages is if you either take a wrong turning or you need to take a different route, say there's a traffic jam on the road ahead, if you turn off, because it knows where you are using the satellites, it'll recalculate a route for you and give you a
roundabout at the next exit.
And give you a new route from your different position.
It must be quite a comforting thing for people that spend a lot of time in the car on their own. It's a bit like having a friend, isn't it, really, for those sad people who never get to go home very often.
Yes, I've had very many interesting conversations with it.
Now you know you're at the end of a long day when you start talking to your navigation system.
It's worse when it starts answering back.
You will arrive at your destination after 150 yards.
Chris, we're nearly there yet.
We're very nearly there. Just wait for the machine to tell you.
You have reached your destination.
Wonderful. I'll tell you what, it beats driving with the A to Z in one hand and one eye on the road. Thank you for the lift. See you soon. So there you have it, the all-new Mondeo, complete with navigation system. Well, it's certainly got me where I want to go. See you next week.